All right, welcome everyone to the what we're dubbing the preview episode or episode 0 of the Scale Scavengers, a new podcast launched as part of the Brick City Blockade Star Wars Podcast Network. My name is Bryan Fontaine, the Jedi Scavenger. I'm going to be joined each show by my good friend Christopher James Leddy, aka Vintage Viewport. Chris, we've talked about this for quite a while. We're excited to get this preview episode out there.
I know we've been teasing it for a few months now. It's great to actually get this thing rolling and excited to talk about some 6 scale figures here.
So this is going to be a Hot Toys podcast. And if those in collecting circles know a little bit about Hot Toys, Chris is going to talk to us a little bit about what they are in a little bit. But Chris, we both in the last year got into collecting Hot Toys. Intellectual curiosity kicks in. We want to know more. We want to see what's out there. We want resources. And Chris, you and I, we looked around and decided that maybe the internet could use one more collecting podcast out there.
Of course, man. Of course, we could use another podcast here. Focusing in on Hot Toys collectibles, specifically, we're going to be talking about Marvel and Star Wars lines, because that's what we collect.
Yeah, so this is going to be like our show, mine and Chris. We want you as the audience to learn with us. We want to learn from you. We don't claim to be any sort of experts. We're just Hot Toys fanatics. So Chris, we're going to cover news and pre-orders, and if we have the chance to talk about in-hand reviews that we have, and like you said, we're going to be focusing on Star Wars and Marvel. No offense to DC or anything else. We would just want to talk about the things that we're passionate about and that we may have in hand. So we will be talking in our first episode about a couple figures. We'll do audio reviews of those, kind of our impressions, things to watch out for. Really looking forward to that and just seeing where the podcast will go from there. So Chris, you mentioned it. If anyone of our listeners are not familiar with Hot Toys, what's a little background about them?
So Hot Toys Limited, they're based in Hong Kong and they have their main store there. It was established in 2000 by Howard Chan. And initially they produced 6-scale military figures, which they were extremely accurate and highly detailed. With the success of those figures, in 2003, Hot Toys was able to start acquiring some licenses for movies. And with that success along over the years, it snowballed into getting the licenses for movie franchises such as Marvel and Star Wars, which, we'll be talking about, but also lines such as DC, The Matrix, Back to the Future, Pirates of the Caribbean, Alien, Predator, RoboCop, Terminator, and several others. One of the biggest things that's happened for Hot Toys is their collaboration in 2014 with Sideshow Collectibles, and Howard Chan and Greg Anzalone, who's the founder and CEO of Sideshow. They teamed up and they made it so that we could get our Hot Toys figures from Sideshow's website. And that really opened up the floodgates for the US market and several other markets around the world. One last thing, Howard Chan, he's a very, very passionate CEO and collector, and every figure choice goes through him from development to production. So he's a very involved CEO, which for me, that's what you want in a toy line or a high-end collectible figure line such as this.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And for anybody that's seen images of these before or have seen them in person, you and I both cannot begin to describe the aesthetic and just how cool they are and how lifelike. And it's an amazing thing to collect, to look at, to talk about. So we're going to be excited about that. So obviously, Chris, this is our preview issue. So if you're interested in what we have for resources available to you from the brickcityblockade.com, we want you to head over to our website. We have checklists that we've put together that cover, obviously, Marvel Studios / Marvel and Star Wars. And it's a complete checklist of every figure ever released, figures that will be released, pre-orders, etc. Information that's going to cover what film or video game or whatever they came from, the original retail price, what the product codes are, and we'll talk about what those product codes means in future episodes, and convenient links to the figures on eBay, Amazon, and we also, although we aren't affiliated with the Sideshow website, we give you links so that you can go and pre-order those yourself. We don't have any kickbacks on that. So it's just part of our way of wanting to stay up to date with everything and providing resources that we feel other Hot Toys collectors will also benefit from. So very exciting time. As Chris, as you mentioned, this is something that we've wanted to launch for quite some time. Our schedules now align, and we're going to get this thing rolling pretty soon here.
Yeah, man. Let's get this thing on the road, and hopefully we'll have episode 1 coming to you guys soon, and can just kind of keep track of how things go, and we'll be putting out episodes on a fairly regular basis.
So one thing that we do at the Brick City Blockade is plug time, and we want to share where you can start to find information about Scale Scavengers and also about the Brick City Blockade podcast network. Chris, where can the people find you on social media?
I am at Vintage Viewport on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook, Christopher James Leddy.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JediScavengerSW. Head on over to Instagram. That's where we're going to be using a lot of the information for Scale Scavengers and sharing out news, images, information about our upcoming episodes. And obviously head over to brickcityblockade.com for those checklists that we talked about, but then also all of our other great Star Wars content podcasts that are out there. You can find our podcast network on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you can find your a podcast of choice and where you can catch it with an app of choice. You're going to find the brickcityblockade.com podcast network out there, and you will not regret it. So for Christopher James Leddy, this is Bryan Fontaine. We're going to see you shortly with episode 1. And as we always say on our network, may the force be with you.
Always.